Hello, church family. Pastor Dan with a Wednesday word of encouragement. We are in stewardship season here at First Presbyterian Church Visalia, and last week we talked about our treasure. What is our treasure? How is it that we're spending our earthly monetary treasures? And that is the beginning of reflecting on how we're utilizing our resources that have been given to us by God. This week, we're going to be talking about how we are spending our time. That's going to be the focus of Sunday morning's messages. So I want to read from Ephesians chapter 5, verse 16. Here's what the Apostle Paul writes to the church in Ephesus. Take full advantage of every day as you spend your life for His purposes. Take full advantage of every day as you spend your life for His purposes. What we're going to reflect on this week, either through you already beginning to do the devotional study guide in preparation for this week's sermon that was sent out last night, or if you arrive at church and listen to the message, what we're going to be working on is examining how are we spending our time? How are we spending our time? Are we spending our time in a way that is taking advantage of the opportunities that God gives us to live our lives for His purpose? Rick Husband was the space shuttle commander of Columbia back in February of 2003. And unfortunately, when Columbia was re-entering the Earth's atmosphere, it burned up because some of the tiles on the bottom of that particular space shuttle had fallen off during the launch time. And sadly, Rick Husband, along with the rest of the crew, lost their lives upon re-entry into the Earth's atmosphere. However, one of the things that I learned about Rick Husband was that prior to launching from Cape Canaveral, he had prepared video devotionals for each of his kids that they could watch and listen to while he was in space. And ever since hearing that, was really in awe of Rick Husband's sense of taking advantage of every day of opportunity he has to invest his love into his kids, and in particular to share his faith with them. He was so concerned about doing that for them that he actually didn't want to miss the opportunity of him being away while on his mission in space. He didn't want to lose the opportunity that he had through technology to share words of wisdom and insight from God's Word with his children while he was gone. That was an impressive thing for me to hear, and speaks volumes to me about a man who was striving to make the most of each and every one of his days. He was taking full advantage of every day and spending his life for God's purposes. It would have been real easy for Rick Husband to justify especially in the final months of preparation, that he did not have time to write those devotionals and then record them and then send them uh, to his kids, if you will, via leaving those recordings behind. It would have been real easy for him to go, this is a very this is a very difficult mission. I am responsible as the commander for everything that's happening on the space shuttle in preparation and in the actual time of the mission. When I get back home, then I'll worry about pouring my life into my kids. He didn't take that risk. He wanted to make sure that every day he had been given life, he was making it count for the purpose that God had for him. And he knew and understood that while part of God's purpose was for him to answer the call as a astronaut vocationally, he did not miss the reality that he understood that he was also called by God to be a spiritual influence in the lives of his children. I hope that such an example is inspiring to each and every one of us to make the most of each day, taking full advantage of every day that God has given us, to spend our life in a way that fulfills God's purposes. So this week, I encourage us to examine how we're spending our time. One last thing that I want to make a point for you to consider. We're going to talk about time using two words. We're going to use the word chronos, which has to do with, if you will, the clock. How are we spending our minutes? How are we spending our hours? But we also want to talk about kairos. Kairos has to do with the idea that now we've got a window of time. We need to consider both areas of time. A simple case in point to make that clear is, for us, our kids only have a window of kairos when they are living under our roof and so easily accessible to our love, nurture, and care. There will be a time, kairos, when they have left the home. And so we need to seize the kairos that we have now, the time that is ever growing shorter if we have kids in our household. Chronos means that because the time is short, how much time do we need to give towards the desire to influence our kids with our love and our nurture and sharing the faith with them? So that's evaluating how we actually calendar our time towards that purpose. But there's an understanding that the time is short that we get. So think kairos and think chronos. And we'll talk more about that on Sunday. Hey, hope to see a bunch of you all tonight, Wednesday night, right here at the church. We're going to have stir fry for dinner. And then there's programming for children, youth. There's adult ministry programming as the women are wrapping up Romans 12 and the men are wrapping up their study on the life of Gideon, and there's choir practice as well. So hope to see you all here at the church tonight. And I hope to see you all Sunday morning at 9 a.m. and 10:30. God bless you all.